Hey dreamers, hope you're having a good day today. I should have done this before, but I'm going to do it now. I am talking today about the theme of desire, and the theme came up from the tarot card, the Lovers, which I'm just looking for now in my deck. There they are. The Lovers. So this is week 4 of Kiki's Big Dream Experiment. And I'll just describe, I'll read out the description of the card and then talk about my theme a bit more. So the Lovers' themes are union, desire, and joy. 2 Canadian geese are mates for life, travelling partners with an expansive sky. The Lovers card is a welcome sight in any reading, as it suggests a beautiful and strong relationship on the horizon. Yes, you'll experience all the thrills of desire and romance, but meanwhile you'll be building a solid foundation together. The Lovers honour and respect each other, and with that they can go anywhere. If you're already in a relationship, it's time to be grateful and nourish this rare and precious gem. So I sat with this card for a while trying to think about the theme to take into this week. And I decided to go with the theme of desire. To really think about like what desire is. I have a desire to stop saying but I'll hopefully make that come true. So I was trying to think of this desire. What is it that we desire? We desire to create, we desire to live, we have desire for money, we desire to make use of our time, and we've desire to make use of our energy and keep our energy moving as well. But sometimes we can get so caught up in our own desires that they are not actually ours anymore. You know, when you think about the things that you do, you have your present self, conscious self, and you have your subconscious. And your subconscious does so much work to keep you moving on autopilot. And so much of what you do is automatic. Very little of it is conscious. Like even when you're reading a book, you're reading the words, but are you consciously paying attention to the words? How are you taking in that information? How are you using that information? Are you just reading it and it feels like it's going nowhere? You know, being present with this is why I sometimes find it difficult to read, because I want to be present in what I'm reading, and I find it really easy to get distracted. So I have to schedule when I read at times when I don't get distracted. So I do it just before bed because the house is quiet, there's nothing going on. I can focus just on the words. And if for some reason it's noisy, if the cats are pottering around, then I'll put on headphones or some music or something to not have that distraction going on. But why is it that I want to read? You know, that's the real question about desire. And I want to do it because I like it. And I think that's the important thing that we should try to cultivate is why, why are we doing what we're doing? Are we doing it because we like it? Are we doing it because we're told to do it? Are we doing it because someone else wants us to do it? And when you think about growing up, you don't know what's going on. You're just listening to the people around you. You're being told what to do by your parents. You're being told to do what to do by your teachers in school. And then eventually you're going to be told what to do by your boss at work. And what is it all in service of? Are you doing it because you need money? Probably. I know that was me for so long. Like, I need money to survive. But then I got to a point where I was like, I have all this money. How do I do more than just survive? How do I live with it? How do I do things for me instead of just surviving and paying someone else's bills, whether it's rent or whatever? So that's why I had a desire to do something to follow my heart, we'll say, and created Kiki Dreams Big. And my initial, I guess, draw to it was this desire to find more in life, to find what I want to do, what I want to spend my time on, because there wasn't anything so far that I had spent so much time on that I would be comfortable spending another 30 odd years doing it. Thanks, Simon. So that's what I wanted to find. I wanted to find something that I could comfortably do for another 40 years or however long I am working, and then, retirement after that. So that's why I created Kiki Dreams Big, to find what that would be. And I had all these visions of what it could be, what I wanted to do. And those were the motivators to get me doing small things every day. Like, how can I do something small to help me get, to one of my dreams? And that's where you have to start, I think. You have to start with pretending you've got nothing, really. Looking around you, realizing what is serving me, what is not serving me. I started, I didn't know what to call it. I call it a 52-week project because I set it up as a 52-week project. When the new year came in, I said I'm going to spend a week spending my time focusing on one thing, one theme for the week, to do something, and just clean up bits of my life, I suppose. So the first one was just building a morning routine so that I could start the day off well. And what I have now evolved into my morning routine, I really only think of as doing my tarot card for the day. But then I realized I don't even need to do it in the morning. It's just because my mind is primed to think about doing a tarot reading, it keeps me distracted enough from things like social media, from using my phone, from the other distractions in life. And this is what I realized is my desire. I want to change something, so I have to do something different. And that almost becomes subconscious now that I'll do my tarot reading. I've been doing them at the start of the year, I was going through the deck, pulling a card a day, not repeated, to go through all of them and try and understand them. And then in May, I started doing them once a day. And I've kept it up once a day, asking a question, looking at a card, coming up with an affirmation of some kind. And I've evolved it a bit more to think about, what did I do yesterday? What did I What am I planning to do today? And what am I dreaming about tomorrow? And so it gives me a bit of a thread, you know. Today isn't just about doing something, it's about, well, what can I take from yesterday that I'm grateful for? How can I do the thing I want to do today so that I set myself up for success tomorrow? And it compounds little by little as time goes on. Because then tomorrow I'll be thinking about what I'm grateful for today, and so on. And I think we have this innate desire for more, more knowledge, more understanding of where we are, more understanding of other people and what they're doing and why they do the things they do. Because we carry so much of everyone else's story that we sometimes forget to take care of our own story. And I think that's the trap we all fall into because we're so conditioned now to be on and engaged and active. But we don't realize that that means every minute of our day is now taken up. We're constantly attached to our phones, we're looking at screens, something is pinging to get our attention. And it's only when you kind of put those things away that you realize how much they affect you. Like I have a mode set up on my phone so that the only thing that will come through, the only thing that show up in my notifications are timers that I'm setting. And the only thing that can come through are phone calls. And every other message it doesn't show up in my notifications and I don't get any sound coming through. So I don't know if someone messages me on Instagram or TikTok. And when I started using that, I realized that I was checking every now and then, oh, did someone send me a message? And it was because I was subconsciously looking for connection with something, you know, even if it's just a notification. And now I've kind of gone the other way where I have it on so much now I enjoy the peace and quiet that I've got tons of notifications and I haven't read them. And it doesn't bother me as much because I know how trivial it is. You know, if someone likes a post, sends me a reel, sends me a video, it doesn't matter. You know, when I have 10 minutes, I can go, hi Jabba, yeah, I can see your comment. And so tying back to this theme of desire, I want control over my time, not to have the phone dictating what I'm doing, not to have other things dictating, to make the choices myself. But it's really hard to notice what is dictating your time until you make a change to your environment and you can see the difference. And so, coming back to the Lover's card, um, the Lover's card is rooted like in romance and companionship. And I was trying to think how to apply this to my week. And I have this rule of three strategy, which is to say that every idea that you have has a creative pathway to manifesting that reality. For example, say you want to make a cup of coffee, that's your idea. Then you know the steps to get there. You know, you walk to the kitchen, you turn on the kettle or you turn on your coffee machine, and you know how to do those things. And that is creation. That is creation. and creativity because you have to spend energy to do something. You're doing something with your hands, you're doing something with your legs. You're problem solving because you're opening a cupboard and you're looking for the thing you don't remember where it is. Or you do know where it is and you're creatively then searching through your memory to use that information. And all of this becomes subconscious that you don't even know you're doing those little background programs to go and make a cup of coffee because you just make a cup of coffee. Over the past couple of months, I have been trying to understand my brain some more. And I suppose there was a moment where I feel like I realized, like I had some kind of awakening, I guess. Um, because for so long I felt like trapped in my brain, right? That my body was just a projection of what's going on around me, and I'm trying to figure out like what's the game everyone is playing. And it's only when I started exploring neurodiversity and stuff that I realized that there is a disconnect between the way that I see things and the way that other people see things. And I was trying to figure out what that is. What is this disconnect? How come other people don't see what I see? Because I can see what they're seeing. You know, the social norms that we all have to abide by. But they're childish games a lot of the time. You know, I still don't really understand the purpose of small talk other than to like validate someone else in a PC kind of way. It's like, oh, it's a safe topic. You can talk about the weather. Everyone talks about the weather. That's what small talk is. Literally, it is small, meaningless talk. I want to have discussions that are deeper, like this. You know, when you say that you're happy about something, oh, why is that? Can you explain more? Like, why do you find joy in a tarot card? You know, it's a piece of paper with ink on it, but it's what it represents, right? It's what it represents for the tarot deck. The tarot deck says this is what it means. But when I look at it and think about the themes, what does it reflect in me? What meaning do I take from it? Because that's the reflection of my thoughts. So when I see the Lover's card, what do I think of? First, I think of my relationship. But going beyond that, that's why I wanted to talk about the theme of desire this week, because I could go down the route of union or joy and romance, but that feels very obvious on the nose. I wanted to explore something that was a bit deeper and more personal, which is desire. Like why do we want companionship? And I think it's because when we have companionship in some form, whether it's romantic or platonic or social, whatever way you interact with other people, that it's a way of manifesting yourself. You know, you have these ideas, you have these thoughts, you want to share them and bring them to the world. But the only way you can do that is by talking with someone, being near someone, understanding their experience, using them as a mirror to help you with your own experience. And so it takes a lot of time for two people to get so comfortable that they kind of start acting as one person. They act as a couple together. They're always together and you know them as a couple. But they're still individuals. So where does the individuality go? So there's this contradictory desire to be with someone but not be seen as a unit with them, that you still want to be recognized on your own. And this is the thing I've noticed about desire, because one of my takeaways from last week was everything is contradiction. In week 2, my theme was seeking knowledge, and I was like looking for answers in places, and I felt like I was going down these 5 or 6 different paths. And at the end of the week, I felt very disjointed in what I was taking away. And then week 3, the theme was vivid dreams. And I was thinking, oh, this is great. I can just like sit back and relax and like let my dreams take over and help me decide what I'm going to write about. And at the end of the week for vivid dreams, I could feel everything was so much more connected. And I think that's because I was more present in the moments where I was thinking about the theme. I wasn't externalizing myself. That's what seeking knowledge was doing. I was sitting there like, what knowledge do I want? How can I find it? Where do I have to go to get it? But I wasn't sitting with like, why do I want to seek knowledge? And it is this, it's both. It's a combination of them, right? Because you need curiosity to go and like open the door, see what's behind the door. Because if you don't know what's behind the door, you don't know how you can use it in some way. Is it a door forward? Is it a door backwards? But if we just know it's a door, we start ignoring it. Like, yeah, it's a door. That's all it is. It's a door. It's not an opportunity to learn something. Why is the door only unlocked on Tuesdays? If you don't ask the questions, then you can't get the answers. But then you ask the question, your mind is thinking about the question, and someday you pass the door and it's slightly ajar. But you wouldn't have noticed otherwise because it was just a door. Whereas now it's a closed door all of the time. You're trying to figure out what it is. And someday you see it's ajar and you go over and you're trying, do you take a peek? Has your curiosity got the better of you? Hey, Robbie, I am talking about desire and looking for more, really, and how, if we don't pay attention to the present moment, we, start looking back on our time and wondering what have we been doing. So I've just been using this example of, say you're in a place and there's a door and the door is locked and you have no reason to go near the door or see the door or pay any attention to it, but it's there. But how much of you is wondering, what's behind the door? What's it used for? Why is it never open? But when you start asking yourself those questions, then you start to pay attention more. And then someday you see that the door is slightly ajar and you have another curiosity like, oh, can I go and have a look and see what's behind there? And that's what being present in the moment is. It's looking around and being aware of what's near you, why it's there, why have you chosen to put it there? If you look at the things in your house, they're all in a place because you made choices to put them there. But maybe it's not where you want them to be. because your house is a mess, it's untidy, it's cluttered, but you're the one who put them there. My point is just to be aware of your thoughts. I'm talking about my theme for this week's discussion is desire, and I've been trying to think like, where does desire come from? You know, it's leading us. Uh, your desire leads you to do things. So these are just examples, right? If you so people are always on the go doing something. Uh, how often do people sit down and pay attention to what's around them and sit in silence? We don't, because our attention is grabbed out every other way. We need to go make food. We need to do some chores. We need to pick the kids up from school. We need to put away the shopping. We need to put away the washing up. We need to do the washing up. But this extends more. It's like, why do you eat the food you eat? It's trying to get to the point of like, what is the drive that we have inside of us? We have a desire to do things. We have an innate desire to survive. But once we're surviving, then what? We just continue on doing the same thing for 40 years. We go to our job 9 to 5 every day so we can get paid, so we can come home, so we can eat dinner and watch television and go to bed, so that we can do the same thing tomorrow to earn money to feed ourselves. So, what's the more that we want to get? What other desires do we have? How do we want to use our money to enjoy our time? How can we stay present? When you're younger, time seems to be moving so slowly. A year in school takes forever. But as you get older, time is moving. It seems to moving so much faster. And it's moving faster because you're on autopilot. A day just goes by and you're like, how did I spend 8 hours at work? I don't even remember it. It's because you're on autopilot and you don't remember it because your brain is like, I don't need to remember it. It's the same every day. And yes, it is a system to survive, but that's the thing. We're stuck in a system now where we're teetering around survival and we're not doing things to make it more than just survival. So, taking your point, you do things to better your living situation. You do change your system, but you're still stuck within a system, right? Because take the system of money. It's not mandatory to work or eat certain foods. I mean, it's kind of mandatory to work because how are you going to get money to survive and to live? Because you can't just have a house to survive in. You have to pay for it in some way. And the uh, establishment, the system, is creating ways for you to get money. Am I working now? It depends what you mean by working. I think I'm working. I'm working on a initiative to do things differently. Kiki dreams big. That's what I'm working as. You choose your own system to better your needs. Yes, you do. What I'm trying to get to the heart of is like, what is that core desire to, how do you know what you want to do? How do you know what system you need to build? That's the existential question. I would say that I am definitely on the path to it. I don't know how, like, I feel like some of my dreams have already come true, right? Some of them I know are much further away because of the circumstances surrounding them. Like, for example, one of my dreams is to star in a musical, right? But to do that, you have to join a musical and go through all of the steps to rehearse and so on. And I'm currently in that process, but I have to wait until all of that time and effort is expended until I can actually do the musical next year. So that's something that's in progress and I can't accelerate anymore. I don't want to have. I've had systems handed to me. Join this corporate job, go up the ranks, earn money, do more things, and it's all conditional. It's like, yeah, we'll give you more money if you listen to us. We want to hear your opinion. Oh, but that's not the opinion that we want you to have. So stop that. You're still within someone else's system. So that's what I'm trying to do here is build my own system to share with people so they can build their own systems as well. And we can do it collaboratively. But the only way to get out of the other systems around you is to recognize them. Yeah, you get paid for a job that they set you, but you are trading your time and energy to do the things they want you to do rather than the things you want to do. So you're sacrificing time and energy for money to get paid, right? But what I'm saying is, why can't you get paid for the things you do want to do? So much of life at the moment is survival, right? Everyone is complaining about the cost of living going up. There's a housing crisis. And so many people are not surviving. The only way that they can get out of this survival mode is to try and follow the systems that are there. But the systems don't work. And we are conditioned to thinking that they're fine because, you know, we end up getting a rental, so we're fine. And we're like, okay, we've made that mark. We get comfortable with renting. Um, so we stop thinking about the people who don't have houses because they're not our problem anymore. They're just numbers and statistics. And our problems are much bigger now because your house is too small and you need a bigger one if you want to have a family. And you need to have space for a freezer because you want to do your meal prep. I'm talking about everyone. Like, I was going through this. This is what I'm being aware of. The point is, what's the driver? When you're in the position where you want the bigger house, what is the driver? It's because you see your neighbor has a bigger house and you want that too. Everything is comparison. What makes me happy? Lots of things make me happy. Talking on TikTok lives, doing TikTok videos, writing articles, writing journaling, playing video games, doing tarot readings, playing with my cats, going on holidays, enjoying the sun outside. Like, if I want, I would love to get paid for existing, you know? I think everyone should get paid for just existing so that we can spend our time creating things that better the world. Yeah, but why do you want a family? This is my point. There's always like, oh, I want a bigger house because. Okay, well, what's the because behind all of them? You want to extend your family. Okay, why do you want to have kids? How many kids do you want? Why do you want to have that number of kids? You know, I don't fully agree that no one is stopping you from creating things to better the world. People are doing it in ways that look like they're supporting, but they're actually not. Capitalism is making you buy things that you don't need. You know, how many things around you currently do you see that you don't actually need in your life? And it's draining your time, energy, and money. And it's taking away from your ability to do things. This is why, you know, addiction to social media is crazy, because you're always craving the next like. You're spending your energy putting your money and data and time into an app to make someone else more money when you could be doing the things you like that make you happier, that gives your time meaning. Hey, Heather. Sorry, I'm just catching up on messages here. My real name is Kieran. I go by Kiki online. This meaning there's reasons for both. Am I straight? I'll be straight with you and say what I mean. But I'm queer. Were you ever in Kildare? Yeah, I'm sure I have been. James Ellsworth. I don't think I know who that is. I want to look him up. Look him up. American wrestler. Oh, okay. No, I'm not from Kildare. From Limerick, living in Drogheda at the moment. Robbie, one of the things you said is you don't need support to be a personal contributor. I mean, you do, because if you're not like if you're creating stuff, right, and it's not going anywhere or having impact, did you even create it? Like, if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? Did it even fall? Like, we're all part of one ecosystem, right? And when you think of this idea that everyone is separate, that's pushing people away so they only become numbers on a spreadsheet. You know, that's what I noticed so acutely in my job, that as I moved around different roles, the way that people talked about others changed. You know, when you were having a career conversation with someone, it was very important to connect with them, right? But then when you combine all those career conversations together and start ranking people for promotions and everything, everyone's just a number. And it's like, oh, we can't give three people promotions this year. You know, that'd be too much. We'll give it to one of them. And then we'll go back to the other two and say, oh, yeah, things didn't work out. You're not getting a promotion this year and you're not getting your 1% salary increase. And so there's this disconnect between like the connection and impact that a person has, and they're not being recognized within the system that they're told to act within. It's like social media. If you create content and nobody is looking at it, then what? You know, where's your messaging going? What is your message? I started social media to challenge myself and do to learn new skills, talk in front of a camera and so forth. So I got that benefit, but now I'm at a point now where I want to connect with people to talk about other things. I'm working at the moment, Heather, fan of Elton John. I haven't actually listened to much of his music, but um, I like him. Shout out for Ross. Happy Pride. Okay, Tom, so you say it doesn't make sound unless there's someone there to interpret the sound waves. What about animals that hear it? What about the sound waves that go into the earth? Like, it's all based on observation, right? If you don't observe it, it's not there, it's not real. That's what the trick is. But we see so much, right? We see so much around us, but when we close our eyes and that all disappears, what are you left with? You're left with your imagination, you're left with your thoughts, your experiences. You know, the your phone, the things that you have around you are not you, but the reflections of you. I have always been queer, Heather. Excuse me. So Where was uh my theme for this week? Thanks, Morgan. Appreciate it. My theme for this week is desire, and I've been trying to figure out like what keeps us moving, wanting more, right? And so much of the of society is wanting more money because we need money for survival. And this is the trap we end up in. We're conditioned to want more money because we're jealous of the people who find it easy to survive. We see the people online on social media who have these great lives that we want to emulate. Even if it's just a thought and the jealousy that you hold on to, it'll sit there and percolate and it will seep into every part of your life. This desire for more. So I've changed. My desire isn't for money, because I have money, right? But I want to make meaning of my time. How do you make meaning of your time? Well, I could get a job for another 30 years and earn money. And you're back in that trap again. So what do I want to do for another 30 years? I set up Kiki Dreams Big so that I could figure out new things to do. Go on a journey that no one else has gone on, because no one else is me. And we can all do this, right? But at some point, I know that like I have to start having money as an income at some point in the future. Because the world that we're in requires it for survival now. You can't survive without it. So it's built into the survival mechanisms. But I want to spend my time wisely. I want to use it to create things, to connect with things I really enjoy, to build systems and routines and rituals that have meaning, that have meaning to me. And we all do this, right? We all do things because it's comfortable, and we do it because we feel obligated to family. These are all of the subconscious things that you do without thinking about why you're doing it. It's because you tell yourself a story, right? Oh, you have to do it, it's family. But that shouldn't be the story. It shouldn't be that you have to do it because it's family. It should be that you want to do it. You have a desire to do it. I've seen a lot where people say that, oh yeah, you do this because of family. But when you take a step back, you realize that, so much of the it's family rhetoric is abuse dressed up. You have to do things my way because I say so, and I'm controlling you and making you do it. But we normalize so much of it and don't recognize that it's, having these impacts. I saw a video the other day, and it was talking about how 1/3 of women in their life would experience a form of SA, and The video also talked about the numbers of that. There's a billion. There's a billion women that would be that 1/3 statistic, which is crazy to think that that many people are going to have their lives changed by some experience that is happening to them without their control or consent, right? And almost all of those people committing the crime are men. But the men doing it are like, this is just the way it should be. It becomes so normalized. It's so normalized now that women have to deal with worrying about things like that, which is insane. And that's where the darker parts of desire come in, because it's one person thinks that what they do and what they're allowed take from others is acceptable. And that's why I'm talking about the theme, to like really try and understand, get people thinking, why are they doing the things that they're doing? What's the real reason behind it all? Because we've dressed everything up in so many different ways that we forget what the true meaning is. And so at some point, those stories disappear. The real reason disappears. If you think about, you're in an argument with someone, are you shouting back against them? Are you freezing up, or do you want to get out of there? What is your response? Because that is your fight, freeze, or flight response. But that happens every time that you get stressed. And you enter this state where you fight it, right, run away, or freeze. And they're all useful, right? But if you run on autopilot, one of them is going to take over, and it's keeping you safe, ultimately. But it's doing harm by reinforcing this automatic behavior. So I used to always freeze in confrontation, and that was all. I just froze and wouldn't do anything else. Now I freeze and use that time because I know that I'm able to freeze because I've been doing it for so long. But I use that time to think and process what's going on so that I can respond. And so it's balancing the fighting and the freezing to be more intentional about what's going on. And with practice, that becomes your new automatic state. And you can change those reactions and automatic behaviors with intentional living by examining really what is your desire behind a response. I spent so much time, I would get triggered by some event and shout and scream for whatever reason. And they're legitimate things, right? If you're trying to do something and you have someone screaming in your ear telling you to do it a different way and you're doing it wrong, you're going to respond to that in some way. And my trouble is I didn't know why I was responding the way I was, because logistically I was thinking, okay, I'm ignoring their orders because their orders are dangerous. But I'm not communicating that. I'm not saying that it's dangerous from my perspective because they don't see it as dangerous. Maybe they do, I don't know. But they want to keep fighting and, initiating this control. And it's only when you become aware of that process, it's only when you're aware of that process that you can do something about it. And that's what awareness is. It's identifying the behaviors and the routines and the patterns that you go through. Hey, cholesterol, I don't know, maybe you should ask if you look nice. I don't know. We no, we run on autopilot so much based on what we have to do. We have the chores to do, we have to go to work, we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to do the other thing. You don't have to do those things in the sense that you can choose not to, but you're doing them because of some reason. But saying you have to do it, that is your reason, right? That's what becomes your reason. You stop thinking about the underlying. If you have to go to work, what are the reasons? It's because you need money to survive, because you're expected to work, because you're healthy and intelligent and, all of these things. But but if society sees you as a burden, oh, you should just go on welfare or disability or whatever else. You don't have to work. People start looking at you differently, and they're just like, oh, you're in a wheelchair. Just go on disability and you don't have to work and you're fine. It's like, no, but I want to work and earn a living and like do my things. Yeah, but you're in a wheelchair. That's going to be inconvenient for other people. And then what happens? Inevitably, all of this talk starts to seep in little by little because you're getting evidence around you that if hundreds and thousands of people keep saying that I'm stupid and worthless, surely it must be true. And so you become a self-fulfilling prophecy where you end up becoming the things that they say. Because it's all belittling the whole time and it's based off stereotype. They're making you a stereotype by treating you like one. And so it's really hard to get out of that because you have to really connect with your self and your creativity and that spark inside you that wants more, that desire for more. And you have to find ways to turn off all those voices, to realize that you're not a sponge taking on other people's negativity. You can make your own choices and decisions. And yes, there are limitations. If you are in a wheelchair, then that's going to make things harder. But other people shouldn't be making it harder for you. It's already hard enough. I heard a great line lately that has been making me think, and it is, how can you advocate for what you want when you don't know who you are? And I think it's important to think about that because we spend so much time trying to categorize people and explain the different groups of people, and that, if you're queer, then this is what it means. If you're Irish, this is what it means. If you went to this school, that's what that means. And everything is putting labels on you to try and explain who you are. But you're not the label. But who are you? What labels can you give yourself to describe your experience? Not the labels that other people give you. Because other people say that you're stupid and an idiot and you don't know what you're doing. But what if you know what you're doing, then you know that when they say you don't know what you're doing, that it's not true. And so it's only when you validate your experience and your being and that your desires are they're there, they are trying to cultivate something in you that you have to use discernment to see what you can and can't do in the world. You have to push boundaries so that you can figure out how much leeway you have, really. But society has built these walls up that stop you from pushing boundaries because it's impolite to talk to people about money. It's impolite to do this and that. But like in the workplace, you're not supposed to talk about money because it's confidential. That's your salary. You can't be sharing that with people. That's the message that they keep telling you, right? But it's so that you won't talk to the person beside you and realize that they're getting paid more money for less work. It's to keep you blind from the injustice that's happening right in front of your face. Because they're putting this onus on you that you're the one causing a problem by bringing up topics that shouldn't be talked about. That's what the control is. One year there was me and several others at I think we were assistant managers going to managers or something like that. And we all got promoted. We all got our new salaries and we were looking at it. And one person reached out to a couple of us and were like, here, do you mind if we like talk about this because something doesn't feel right? And it turned out that we had been getting paid less than the year before us. But the message we were told is, oh, you've got such a big increase from last year. And like, while that was true, we were still getting paid less than the people the year before us. So we were less well off because inflation had gone up, but we were also getting paid a smaller amount of money than they had paid last year. So what was happening was they were scraping a bit off the top to save money, right? But selling this idea that we were getting much more. And we chatted to each other and we said, look, it's not fair. At the very least, we should be getting what people got last year because that's the value that you put on the work. Because while they're giving with one hand, they're taking away the other because they're saying, oh, now that you've got this more money, you have to do more work. But what's happening is the responsibilities and expectations are always going up every single year and the money is coming down. But the way they sell it is so that you don't see that. And they keep this cycle then because you're not supposed to talk about money. It's rude. You're the one causing problems and discourse if you start talking about money. That's what's going on all the time. That's the way that, in social situations, when someone says something pointed or weird, they're either aware of it or they're not aware of it. If they're aware of it, they're doing it to coax a response. If they're not aware of it, then they're running on an automatic behavior that's trying to coax a response, especially if they won't have a conversation about it. This is why I don't like small talk, because it's frivolous and people are throwing out these feelers trying to see who can they control, who can they not control. Why can't we just talk to people? I think a lot of it comes down to this desire for life to just be easy, and we tell ourselves these stories because it's just easier. You know, I don't want the hassle of having to complain about not getting paid more, so I'll just stay quiet. It's easier. The trouble is then everyone is staying quiet and no one's speaking up on these things, and it makes it that much harder for the person that comes behind you, because they're going to be expected to do more work and get even less pay than you got. Why does existence have to be such a fight? Why do we have to fight so much just for human rights? That's what we're at right now. In this age where the world is more connected than we've ever been, why are we so divided? It doesn't make sense. It's because money it has influence. It's now the currency of survival. If you don't have money, then you don't have worth as a human. Yeah, we have to pay to exist, but why do we have to pay for someone else to exist? Like all these billionaires, they don't have to pay to exist. They're getting paid to exist. And they just want more money. Like, it's ludicrous. There's billions of dollars out there hoarded by a small amount of people. Yeah, no other mammals have to pay to exist, but we have created a system where we are confining ourselves. We have to pay to exist. That's why it's so important to vote, and that's why, with the presidential election in Ireland lately, yeah, I know it's not a position where you can affect laws and make change the way that the Taoiseach and the government does, right? But the sentiment is there. The people are just apathetic. They don't want to vote. It's like, I can't be bothered. If you can't be bothered to vote for something that doesn't matter, really, like, if it doesn't matter, why is it so hard to make a decision? If you're saying that the President of Ireland is a symbolic position with no power, why is it that instead of choosing between one or the other, you choose not to vote at all? What is the reason? Is it because you don't care? You don't think that your voice matters? That your vote will make a difference? Yeah, but when there's a million people who feel like that, that's very different. If you would be willing to share, Jarvis, I'd be curious to ask why you didn't vote. I know plenty of people who didn't vote, and I know what their reasons are, and they were legitimate reasons as well. Like, I know people who didn't vote because of like violence that was going on in their area the day of the vote, and they were like, you know what, my life isn't worth risking in order to vote. Fair. I get that. But like, if your reason for not voting, yeah, I didn't think it would make a difference. When has a single vote ever made a difference, right? But how many other people around the country think it wouldn't make a difference? And what if all of you had chosen to vote? Then it could have made a difference. You know, I get this point of I didn't think it would make a difference because I've been there myself, and I've thought, like, if I vote for this person, they probably won't get in, which means my vote is not going to be worth anything. That's what the preferences are for in our system, and I think we should be glad we have them because it at least gives us some bit of a voice. The American system, where it's one or the other, you're being disregarded entirely. Now, our system is not perfect at all. In fact, the preference system has its own troubles because you know, this is where the parties come from, because you're like, oh, we've got 5 people, just it doesn't matter who you vote for in what order because all the votes will transfer to someone, so we'll get enough people in. You know, there are those troubles too. But when you're being conscious about it, you don't need to vote entirely for a party. You can pick and choose according to your values, and that's how we should be doing it. But it breaks down into these systems of just voting for the party. Didn't feel strongly enough about it either. Yeah, I also understand that. What I want to what I want to understand from people is what is the underlying motivation for something. Like, you know, these are just rhetorical questions, but why do you believe that it won't make a difference? Why don't you feel strongly about it? And I understand all of the logic, right? I understand all of the logic and I get it. What I want to get, what I want to understand from people is, you know, is there something in the system that you've just realized is not working and it's pointless to fight against? Because I think that can be the reason for a lot of people making choices the way they do. And I understand it because it's exhausting, always having to fight for your place. You know, when I was in college and I was involved in the LGBTQ societies, there was always this. There were 2 camps of people. There was the person who said we need to fight for more rights to be equal with others, equal rights. And then you've other people saying, yeah, but why do we have to be the ones to fight? Shouldn't we just be in a world where we're accepted? And yes, both things are true. The world is full of contradictions. You have to fight. You have to fight so that other people won't have to make the world better for the next person who comes along. We forget how far we have come and we become complacent with what we have and we're not grateful for it. And it's when you get that gratitude, you realize that the little bit that you can do can have a positive impact. And I think the people who are saying, like, why can't I just exist? I think it's because they're tired of fighting. They've always been fighting at the day-to-day level. Yeah, we are always looking for more. The trick is, I think, like, humanity always wants more. Collectively, we want more. We want to figure out where we come from. We want to figure out why we're here. We want to figure out how the universe works. Um, but at some point, people got to a point of like, oh yeah, I mean, we could go amongst the stars, but like, we can just conquer this little rock that we're on too and just build systems and take it over. And that's where money and all this stuff comes from. That's why you have such a divide. You know, people are all people. We should be at the same level, but instead we've built these structures so that this person over here is more important than this person down here. And it's all absurd when you look at it that way. But we have to use the system to break the system and build something new. If you think of a butterfly, um, caterpillar is born and it walks and it eats and it just is and whatever. And then it becomes a chrysalis. And in order to become a butterfly, it has to completely like disintegrate into goo and reform. And then it becomes a butterfly and it continues on the next stage. And like, the question is it the same consciousness, if you want to say? Like, if you believe that a butterfly is consciousness, it's alive, so it must have some level of awareness and instinct to act. So is it the same as the caterpillar? Yes, I would guess so. Yeah, we're polluting the planet and eating most of the animals on it because we think that we deserve the more space, more things. And we don't. We can create things that make our lives easier, but they don't have to impact the world negatively. But it's this greed and this desire for more money that makes like climate change feel like so far away, like you're not impacting it. And I'm talking about like companies, right? Companies are the systems to control people. Capitalism is the system of control in the world because everything is money. If you want to go anywhere, it costs money. If you want to do anything, it costs money. If you want to exist, it costs money now. You can't just sit in a forest forever because you're on government property and you're not allowed to, and you have to live over here. But in order to live over there, you have to have a house. In order to have a house, you have to have a job. Yeah, this is the worrying thing about the genocide at the moment is that people are just like, oh, that's happening out there. I don't need to worry about it. I can't do anything. And it's a double-edged sword, right? Because at the end of the day, how are we supposed to combat the likes of the US president who has so much influence in his baby finger? It feels pointless in some ways to do anything. It's because you're at this different level of scale, you know? We're somewhere here. The world sees Palestine as somewhere down here. And America thinks they're up here. Questions? What questions? What's your questions? Do I want a galaxy? The chocolate bar? I'll have a chocolate bar. But yeah, this is the thing. It's become normalized now. The genocide. That's what people are trying. That's what people are saying. Because you're not paying attention to it, it doesn't affect you, but it's still going on, right? And so the longer these things go on, they just become more normalized. That's what America wants. That's what Trump wants. He wants to keep this going until the point where he can turn around and like stop it and say, "Oh, I'm great. I stopped it with this ceasefire." But no, you're the one who was causing it. You were playing into it the whole time. You were building it up just so you could tear it down and say that you're great. Yeah, I agree, Jarvis. If aliens came here and looked at the Earth, they would say we were the problem. I don't see how we could possibly ever, expect to go beyond Earth until we can live harmoniously on Earth. It is modern slavery. It is. It's this thing of you're being kept in survival enough that you're like, it's fine. I'm surviving. I'm just getting by. So you never start fighting back. But if you start to examine your desires, what motivates you, what drives you forward, then you can start to see where in the world can you make a difference. That's what I want to do with Kiki Dreams Big. And I've struggled with how I want to do this while also working within the system of money. It's like my big goal will be, right, that I get so much money that I don't have to worry about myself, that I don't have to worry about family members who are struggling with money, and that I can fund other people to do their creative pursuits as well. Yes, ask away. Lock in for yourself or clock in for someone else. That's exactly it. You know, I see all of these. I'm not singing on my live. We have all these billionaires and they're not doing what we want them to do, right, with their money. So, how can we do better? So, I've been thinking of ideas to replace the system of working just for money to a system where it's a barter system, basically. Um, but what you're bartering is either money, time, or energy. And right now, the only way it works is you give your time and energy, and someone else gives you money. But we also have that you give your time and money, and someone else gives you energy. If you go for a massage, if you go to engage in, if you go to the cinema, if you go to theater, all of these experiences, you're giving your time and your money, and you're getting energy in return. And that's how people are like spending their energy and time and getting money for it, because you're paying for the experience. And then what's the other one? How can you spend money and energy to get time? You automate things, you pay other people to do work for you. That saves you time because then you can spend the time on something else. And I think these are our three big resources: money, time, and energy. And we have three main parts of our lives. We have our working life, we have our hobbies, and, you know, social life. And then we have our personal life. And in our personal life, we want to make use of our time. With our hobbies, we want to like build up energy to do other things. And in our working life, we are making money. So how can we combine this all together? This is what one of my dreams is, to like figure out this mechanism, try it out and see where it goes. Because when everything's done on money, everything becomes layered in some way. You know, my value for a euro is very different to someone else's value for a euro. And so it becomes a difficult language and bridge to cross. But the way that I value an hour of my time might be different to the way someone else values an hour of their time. And they would much prefer to pay me, they might prefer to like pay me money to deal with that hour. Jarvis, I'm glad you asked. How could you possibly try it out? So I set up this idea, position that I call a dream tester, and I advertised it on LinkedIn. And the purpose is to trial some systems that I have in mind that I've been trying on myself over the past couple of months. And it's a view to, it's sort of like coaching, but it's a bit more than that, because how I want to do it is collaborate with people so that I'm getting something from them that's not just them paying me for money, that they're giving me, basically I want to give them the option. It's a collaboration where I spend my time helping them with their goals. So it's coaching in that way, right? But they choose how they want to reciprocate, because it is a reciprocal collaboration. That's how I'm setting this up. And the three options are money, time, and energy. The money is, it's the obvious one. It's what everything is now. It's like, oh, an hour for your time, $100, please. But like, are you actually getting $100 worth of value from that? You might not think so. Another person might think it's too little to ask. So for the money system, I want to say, look, put a value on it for yourself and, you know, see if that's something you want to contribute. But if money is like the sticking thing, then look at energy. I want to collaborate with people so that I can test my systems. And to do that, I want to collect feedback, surveys, reflections, questionnaires to see how people respond to the system, treating it like an experiment. And so if they can commit to taking part in this experiment, then that's the energy that they can give me. And I'm getting value. I'm trading my time and experience for that energy and feedback. And then the third one is time. How can this person help me save time? If they share my content, engage with my content, make it seen by more people so that I get more followers and people who want to connect, this is a way that they can save me time, because then I don't have to go and do a million videos on TikTok talking about my thing just so that the algorithm will send me some new followers. Because it's very hard to advocate for yourself, because people don't trust that, because they don't advocate for themselves. So when they see someone else doing it, it feels it feels uncomfortable. But when your best friend is telling you about something that they think can help you, that can be really powerful. Just looking at your messages, Mr. Raspberry. Sad because I have so many ideas, but work has been run down to max. Yeah, I was there as well. Like every time I go to work, every single idea I had was being dismissed. And I was watching people following systems that they were failing at. They were setting their own deadline saying it'll be done in a week. Then I get to a week later and they say, sorry, it's not done because of XYZ. Can I spend another week doing it? And I'm like, sure, I'll help, whatever. We get there, still not done. I'm like, do you not see what's going on here? And, money, time, and energy, uh, that energy thing, that I was not getting any energy from work anymore. I was getting energy from work in the first maybe 70 or 80% of my time there, where I would go to work. I was getting paid, but getting paid at that point it was just happening in the background. I didn't need to worry about it. Instead, I was going for the experience and connecting with people and the energy I got from doing things. But when that disappeared, I was now just wasting time and energy because I was getting nothing more back but money. But I didn't have the time and energy to spend that money. Yeah, I feel this so little opportunities in my area. When I took my CV after I finished working, I sent it to recruiters and everything, and I was looking for jobs. And every time that someone came back to me saying, "Oh, we want to do," actually, no one said that we wanted to do an interview, but every time I saw a rejection, I was partly relieved. I was like, you know what? I don't want to go in there again. I want to do something else. And I spent ages with my CV trying to curate, like, what is it I want to do? And I couldn't do it because there is no blueprint for the kind of CV I want to create. Because anyone I spoke to would say, no, you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. It drove me mad. We had to do internal CVs one year so that the leaders could like look at it, people's experience and move them around to projects. It made sense. But when I shared what I wanted to put on my CV, they were like, no, 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 that's not useful. You need to say it this way instead. So they were looking for a very particular structure, but they wouldn't tell you what the structure is. They had you guessing and constantly trying to figure out what it is. And it's insane. That's what these interviews and job applications are now. Everyone has their own structure. Give us your CV. By the way, fill out everything into our personalized application process so we can standardize everything and kick you off because you didn't use the keywords we need. It's ludicrous. With the people that applied to the Dream Tester program that I mentioned, I wanted to do things differently. So my idea is that I send them a one pager or a PDF of some kind and say, this is an interview I want to have for over 20 minutes. I want to ask you 3 questions. Who are you? What are your hobbies? And why are you here? And I will start that interview with those 3 questions answered by me. Because I want everyone on the same page. I don't want to see what is your assumption of me, because I don't care what your assumptions are. All I know is that you've applied, which means that you're curious enough to like go on this journey, right? So I want to try it differently. I want to give you the interview questions because I want to see how people are when they're comfortable. And I was thinking, okay, well, what do I want to do next? So I tried to plan things out in three things. When I started doing TikTok lives, I said I'm going to do three TikTok lives to get used to doing it, and figure out like what works and what doesn't work. So I built Lego on live three times, and I found that when I was building Lego, I was just talking about stuff, and that was something I hadn't considered. It's like, oh, that's nice. I've done three lives now, and I've got my data for that. Then I started doing tarot readings for people, and they were popular in a different way. I was like, that's interesting. And I figured out like how I talk and how what I get from those lives. And then the third set is I played Minecraft three times. And so within each one, I do it three times so that I know that like if I do tarot readings and no one responds, that's just a fluke. That I don't get any response. But if I do it twice more and I do get response, then it's showing me that there is something there. And I had these two different lives, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do next? And so I came up with Kiki's Big Dream Experiment, this thing I'm running for 90 days, and each week I've got a theme for it. Um, and I've been treating it like, in one ways, it is the first step in a bigger vision, and there's two more experiments to come after it. And I don't know what they are yet, but that's like the big goal. Because in order to get there, I'll have to go through 270 days, and that's a big chunk of time to get through before I figure out the meaning. But within it, each week is an item. So when I've done 3 weeks, I can look back on it and say that, this is what I've learned from those 3 weeks. And then I'm doing something the next time. So for these interviews with people, I want to do 3 20-minute calls to like get a baseline with people to like figure out a plan we can work on so that it captures this collaborative working that I want to do, that explains the way I want to get paid for it, either through money, time, or energy, and go on a journey with people, because I want to find ways to integrate work life, personal life, and social life together into one thing. This is my job, John. Figuring out my job. Because I've been through the systems. I've been through the systems, and I know what works and I know what doesn't work for me. And so I want to create my own. And so far it seems to be working. I started looking back at my old TikTok videos. I created a second account to view them as a third party, because I know conceptually what's in my videos from 4 months ago, but I don't remember the specifics. So I created this other account to just go back and look at my stuff and interact with it and see what lessons I can get from it or how far I've come. Because what's useful is in those videos, I can see the dream happening in my head from where I was at the time to a point now where I can see that dream was realized, and I'm trying to like put the pieces together to see if I was on the right track. That's one of the main things behind Kiki Dreams Big. I felt so much like I was on autopilot that I didn't have any control of what I was doing. So because I love data, I started making data for myself, videos, audio recordings, journalings, and they're all things like to speak about my dreams and how I can create plans to get there. It's combining action and doing, but it's in a different way. I'm not like writing a plan and then sitting down and following that plan the way that you would in a workplace. because you've got a budget and all these other things. And inevitably you go over budget. And it's because you're trying to conceptualize these things that don't translate very well. People try to make meaning of them, but it's only when you get through it that you realize, oh, we overspent or we underspent or we didn't think of this or we didn't think of that. And it's something I realized really early on for myself is I don't know. I realized, you know, this is what I was saying to people. They were saying, like, do your 5-year plan. I'm like, I don't know what my 5-year plan is going to be. I have these visions in my head of I would like to be able to do this, be able to do that, be able to do the other. I don't know the pathways to get there. So that's why I don't know the plan. They were like, yeah, but just write it down. You know, there's this disconnect between people will write down the plan and then they'll get to the end of the 5 years and realize, oh, I didn't mark off these 5 things. I feel bad about myself because I wasn't able to accomplish my goals. I'm useless. But they don't see that, like, by writing it down and not being committed to it, you're setting yourself up for failure. Which is why I started, like, doing the small things. Do the smallest thing. If I do a tarot card a day, that is a small thing. Sometimes I can spend 40 or 50 minutes with it. If I'm, like, really in there. Other days, it's 5 minutes. Most days, it's 5 minutes even. I think that's exactly it. People are afraid of spending their resources and failing. You know, people want things to work the first time. Because if it fails, they just see all of these resources have gone. And this is why I've been talking about experiments, because you can't fail an experiment. If you set up an experiment correctly, it can never fail, because the purpose of it is to learn something. You're testing a hypothesis based on information that you've got. So I have this hypothesis of an idea to build a system with money, energy, and time being the payments. And that's what I want to try out with the Dream Tester group. And it is giving into the system. I've figured out for myself what works for me and how much I can just, like, trust the system, trust subconsciously what's going on, to trust the things around me that I'm doing. That it all works out. And, like, look, it comes from this place of manifestation. And I will talk about all of this in different levels, depending on who I'm talking to and what level people want to talk at. I spent so long in the corporate world that I can talk to people on LinkedIn in this way. I have this lens that I can explain these ideas through in a way that is compelling in a professional environment, right? But if you want to talk about the spiritual side of things, I will talk about that and explain where it comes from as well in there. If you want to talk about it with respect to your hobbies, I can do that too. These are the 3 areas that I am trying to connect, and I have these 3 different pathways that I'm trying out, because I know for me there's no one. Basically, I was trying to find one system that would work everywhere. And I found a system for me that connects these 3 in my life, and that's what I want to experiment with. And so I'm not asking people to spend their resources and not definitely get something back. I want to show them that if you spend time and energy on collaborating with me to better yourself, I can guarantee that you will learn something from it, because it's an experiment and you're setting up the experiment so that you learn something. And so even if at the end you realize that If your experiment is taking on a new hobby and you want to write a book, you have to start writing something. The thing that keeps people getting stuck is they start writing and they don't know if they're writing the right thing. My argument is you won't know you've written the right thing until afterwards. And I found this when I'm writing articles. I will write an article on a day and read back through it, and it'll feel wrong. And some part of me wants to keep little parts of it. Other times, I just delete the entire thing and I start again. I'm like, okay, I had that train of thought. It's not the one I wanted. I'm going to try again with a different one. And sometimes okay, normally I get it by the third go because I'm building this 3-part system. Everything is a 3-part system. I'm trying it out with the TikTok lives. I'm just like conditioning myself to like look outside the box each time. If the first time doesn't work, what can I do differently that fills the gaps? If the second time doesn't work, what can I do differently to fill the gaps of the first two? And eventually, somewhere in there, for something I'm comfortable with, like writing an article, I'll get 99% of the message. It'll be good enough. And I'll know that the next time I go to it, I'll have the message even more. And so this helps with the easy stuff. It means the easy stuff I can do in one step. Things that are a bit more difficult, sometimes a 2-step. And then the things that happen on the third step are the things that I was struggling to even get started before. So it's like giving permission to fail, almost. Because it is an experiment. If you allow yourself the freedom to fail, to learn from it, then you're getting information to help next time. And so these big dreams, like the money, energy, and time system, there's a lot of steps to get there. I don't know how many it's going to be. I can't see how many steps it's going to be. But I know that if I try the first 3, I'll get enough information to go somewhere else. And I'm also open to the fact that, I might change one of the variables somewhere along the way as well. It's about evolving what doesn't work. And I've been saying this to people as well. If you go back through my content, there's certain videos that I want to highlight and mark as like these are the poignant ones in my story. And they might not make sense immediately, but they do fit into the story that I can tell after the fact. And I want to get rid of this idea that you have to know what you're doing. You have to know what you're doing inside, but you don't need to know what you're doing outside, because no one knows what they're doing outside. We're just playing along with the systems and rules that everyone else has set up. And we're like, okay, seems to be working. But what about the ones in my head? The systems in my head are the things that have been navigating me all the way to now. And so being grateful shows you that you have a lot more confidence in yourself and you can trust yourself a lot more. And so I'm finally at a point where I can start talking about these ideas and defend them. Because at the start I had to think about like, I went through all of the negative self-talk of, oh, it's not going to work. Because if it would work, if it was the answer, then people would have done it already. But then I flipped the script and said, okay, well, someone has to be the first one. Why couldn't it be me? I'm 1 out of 8 billion people. Statistically, it's weird. It's almost impossible that it would be me. But what about the reality where it is me? Is that not more exciting to try? Give it a go. What if I'm right? And that's scary as well. You know, people are scared of the unknown, but they're scared of being right. Because what'll it mean for their entire life? If you do something drastic and it changes your worldview, what does it mean for all the time you've lived so far? Was that all a lie? It's not a lie. It's not a lie. It's that you were doing the best you could with the information you had. Now you just have more information. You can do better. Yeah, exactly. Anyone who has made anything is sitting in a chair somewhere doing this, sitting in their garage, spending hours toying with ideas. And I'm very aware I'm in that situation, which is why I feel confident in my ideas. Because if I don't feel confident in my ideas, then what's the point of doing any of this? And I'm doing the experiments to see if I can get data to the contrary. Essentially, that's what I'm looking for in some ways. If I can find data to the contrary, then yeah, I'll change my thinking. Now, what does that data look like? I don't really know. It is going to be something that makes me look at it and wonder, and like something that confuses me, that stumps me. I think I think that's what it would be. And I don't like being stumped, so I like to find answers to things. Okay, that's an interesting viewpoint about emotions. I think that we spend too much time putting our emotions aside. We need to actually sit with them. Because if you have a bad day, why did you have a bad day? I had a bad day on the 16th of September. And I keep remembering that date because I keep saying it because for some reason it sticks in my head. I got up that day and I just didn't feel like doing anything at all. I had no desire to do anything. And it was scary because it had been so long since I felt that. I felt it in the last months of my job. I had no desire to work anymore, but I still showed up to work and do the thing because I had, my obligations and responsibilities that I had signed up for. And because of the situation I was in. But I had no desire to do that anymore, which is why I left. But what was it about this day on the 16th of September where I woke up and I had no desire to do anything? And I leaned on my journaling, I leaned on my tarot, and I was looking at things and realizing I need to do something different to change this because if I do the same things, the same rituals, the same journaling, the same whatever, yes, it is helpful. It's very helpful. But it pointed out the fact that I'm still going to have down days. And I can't help that. I can't help that they come, but I can help how I deal with them when they do. So on that day, I signed up to go to therapy. And it would be a couple of weeks before I would actually go. But just the fact that I had set it up completely changed my mindset because I was like, oh, now I have a solution. Now I have a thing to look forward to help me with this. You know what that did? It got me out of the rut during the day and I got back to normal because I chose to do something different. I chose to ask the question even. I didn't actually have to go. I was putting out feelers for services. That was enough. Just that little shift in the day. It's do something different. and it will change the path. So listen to your emotions because they are your body's response to the environment around you. Fear, I think, controls us a lot. And we're very, it becomes very visceral when we're in an environment that is scary and unknown. It's Halloween now. We're always thinking about like what are our fears, but they are a filtered perception that we believe in. That thing is scary over there because I don't really know what it is. Yeah, but if you shine a light on it and you see what it is, it's not scary anymore. So what's your equivalent of shining a light on something? I like to think like, why was I scared? It's like spiders. I'm not scared of spiders, but spiders scare me. If one just crawled up my arm right now, I would shriek and be like freaked out by it. But it's not the spider is what's scaring me. It's that something is crawling on me and I don't know what it is. When I look and it's a spider, like I'm reacting because I can feel that sensation. My body is reacting to something. And I'm consciously then having to look out and see, oh, it's just a spider, that's fine. Then I'll pick up the spider and put him outside. But I know lots of people who won't go near the spider because they're scared of it. I'm scared of certain things. I don't want it to run away and hide, and I don't know where it's gone. I don't want it to bite me if it can. I don't know if it can. Uh, so I'll do things to like protect myself. I'll put a bowl over it and then bring it outside that way. So I'm not scared of spiders, but they do scare me. They frighten me sometimes. So what are the things I'm actually scared of? I don't know. That's a tough question. Part of me has a desire to know what it is because then I can do something about it. Uh, I realized what scared me so much for so long was betrayal. And I realized what it was. It's that betrayal shatters your entire worldview, which is terrifying. And I never had the words to put to that. But like if you trust someone so much and they become a staple in your life and then they betray you in some way, it feels like everything they've done up to that moment has been a ploy. That's just a game. That they don't really love you and trust you and, embody the things that they say. Which is why I feared betrayal so much. And I realized it's because I put so much energy into that expectation of support and whatever. It's because I was putting expectations on other people, right? Because I couldn't trust myself. But when I started to trust myself more, doing tarot, tarot is just a reflection game. It's like story cubes. It's just something to trick you into thinking a different way. The cards have a meaning because the book says they have a meaning, but all the tarot decks have different wording. So you can attribute your own meaning to the cards. And that's what you should do. You should look at the meaning of the card, reflect what it means for you, and see where it leads you. And so with that, I was getting more trusting of myself and my intuition. And so I wasn't feeling as betrayed by certain things I was doing. I was realizing that things I was doing is automatic behavior. And it's like, the reactions fight, flight, or freeze. I would feel betrayed by my body in some way if I had a reaction that I didn't agree with. And I didn't like that. I didn't like knowing why I was responding the way I was. And all of these things, it's like you're building something, right? You're building, let's say you're coloring in a picture and you love the color red. You do a lot of reds, but at what point do you say, okay, I need to stop with the red because now it's only red and I'm getting lost in the red and there's no picture anymore? You have to go to other colors to bring in other colors to complement it so that the red stands out in the way that you like. And that's what hobbies and interests are. They're all little things to get you thinking in a different way, to get you unstuck someplace else. That's why you hear people have amazing ideas when they're falling asleep or in the shower. These spaces where you are away from the world and you're just with yourself is when you have those brainwaves because your body feels safe. Yeah, the hardest part is definitely being brutally honest with yourself. But the thing is, you don't need to go all of the way, like down to the deepest, darkest pit to start. Start with the small stuff, ease yourself into it. It's like exercising. You don't suddenly run a marathon. You start going for a walk for 10 minutes, and then you do 20 minutes, and then 30 minutes, and now you start integrating a bit of running. You do a little bit, and it's all these 1% changes. Like the way that I look at my tarot deck now is so different to when I started it, because when I started it, I was looking at all these cards like, what? How am I supposed to learn these? And you learn them by playing with them. So some of them, like some of the cards, I know by looking at them, like the world. That has come up a few times for me. It is the last card in the deck. It is 21 in the major arcana. It is completion and wholeness. It's the end destination, right? The trouble is, like, what do you do when you get there? You have to start something new. And it's scary. If you feel like you've completed everything, then what? But the thing is, you constantly have journeys. You're completing things and you're starting things all at the same time. So there's always something else to keep you moving. If you're coloring in that picture, when you get to the end of it, then what? Do you go to another picture? You can, but you can also go to your video game that you're only halfway through and you can play that for a while and give yourself space from coloring. And then you finish your video game and you're like, okay, I need to think of something else to do, so I'll go color a picture. And you're constantly jumping around doing all of these things that you enjoy. The question is whether you're doing it intentionally or you're doing it by default. So if you start examining the little things, then eventually you'll get the comfort enough to question the big things. And it all comes back, I think, to this desire for more understanding of ourselves. We don't like looking at ourselves, truly. We spend, if you think of Vegas, Vegas is lights everywhere because it keeps you awake and it's distracted by the world around you. But when you go to bed or you spend time with yourself, you start thinking of all the negative things that hold you back. But the reason is because you need to think about those things. You need to challenge them and question them in order to grow. It's a cycle. Your subconscious will control your conscious actions. but your conscious actions will control your subconscious. The trouble is that we keep getting distracted by our consciousness keeps getting distracted. And so we never truly spend the time building good habits that help us. I'm going to finish up this live. I'm an hour over what I was planning, but I thought it was good discussion. I like talking. May I ask what's your goal after this? Is it freedom you're after, or wealth, or both? My goal is happiness, really. And that comes with a lot of things. That comes with freedom. There's a lot of freedom I've already got just from changing my perspectives on things and my mindset. In terms of wealth, there's a level of wealth that I want so that I don't have to worry about being wealthy. You know, at the moment, I'm looking at my bank account and saying this is how much needs to go into rent and bills and holidays and groceries and all these other things. But when I was working and getting paid, and like that was assured, I didn't need to think about that anymore. I could just live in the moment, and my bank account was taking care of itself. So I would like to get that level of security again in a way that I want to make money, which is why I want to try this new system. And so it's a combination of all of these things. You know, I suppose the ultimate goal is that on my deathbed, we'll say that I can look back and say that I don't have any regrets, that I've tried everything I wanted to try. Because that means I've used my time effectively for me. And people think it's weird when I talk about death like that, but we're all going to die. I see it around me when, you know, family members pass away, and there's the grief of everyone else left behind. Like, what do we do now? It's like you just keep living. You have to just keep moving. But then there's all these griefs about like, oh, I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. It's like, well, why don't you do those things? What's holding you back from doing it? A lot of the time it's society. It's like you can't be honest with people because, you know, it's rude to ask questions or to point out that someone doesn't look like they're doing so well. Yeah, I want to try. I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. If I tried Kiki Dreams Big and put all my energy into it and it failed, and by failing, every single thing that I'm doing would have to fail, which is a big ask. But if it all failed, then at least I knew I tried. And sometimes the trying will succeed, and those successes will start to compound with each other. And those are the 1% increments that make it. You know, I've been doing my tarot every morning for, well, I say every morning, every day. It's not always the morning. Sometimes I do it last thing at night, which is strange, but I still do it. I've been able to do that every day for 5 months because it's a commitment I made to myself. And this is what I want to try and do with my collaborations, is like make a commitment to each other, hold each other accountable. I found myself going to the gym more frequently when I had a friend that we would go together and we would spend the half an hour, 40 minutes there. But we would do different things. But like the commitment was that we would both get each other in the door. And once we were in the door, well, it's just easier to just go and do the exercise, right? It's that kind of collaboration I want with people. So I want to make the commitment that I will help you with something if you commit to doing something for me, whether it is your choice of paying for this time because you have money you want to spend, or giving me energy to answer my feedback surveys, reflections, and so forth, because that's what I would like to use your energy for if you want to give me energy. And the what's the third one? Third one is time. If you want to give me your time, then we'll figure something out there. Okay, speaking of time, I'm going to wrap up now because it's been about 2 hours. It's been over 2 hours and I've got other stuff to do. But thank you all for joining me today. Follow along for more. I hope to put up maybe another live tomorrow doing actual tarot readings. And yeah, thanks so much. Keep dreaming.